Welcome, everyone, to the People's Debate League. I'm your host, Vincent. Just to let you guys know that I will be changing the name to the Mathematical Debate League very soon. Actually, I'll be changing to the League of Mathematics. I think that sounds better, the League of Mathematics. Okay? So, that being said, I'm going to finish this last part of 4 of the 4 schools, which, if you remember from the early readings, this is not really actually one of the 4 schools, but they decided to add it in there. I forget the reason why. And this last part is called predicativism. Predicativism. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And my screen is being shared. Predicativism. As was mentioned earlier, predicativism is not ordinarily described as one of the schools, but it is only contingent reason that before the advent of the second word, war predicativism did not rise to the level of prominence of the other schools. The origin of predicativism lies in the work of Russell. On a cue of Poincare, he arrived at the following diagnosis of the following Russell paradox. The arguments of Russell paradox defines the collection C of all mathematical entities that satisfy. The argument then proceeds by whether C itself, this is conditioned and derives the contradiction. The Poincare-Russell diagnosis of the argument states that the definition does not pick out collections at all. It is impossible to define a collection S by definition that implicitly refers to S itself. This is called the vicious circle principle. Definitions that violate the vicious circle principles are called implicative. A sound definition of the collection only refers to entities that exist independently from the defined collection. Such definitions are called predicative. As Godot later pointed out that the Platonists would find this line of reasoning unconvincing. If mathematical collections exist independently of the act of defining, then it is not immediately clear why there could not be collections that can only be defined predicatively. Godel, 1944. All this led Russell to develop the simple and the ramified theory of theories in which synthetical restrictions were built in that make impredicative definitions ill-formed, and simple type theories. The three variables in defining formulas range over entities to which the collections to be defined do not belong in ramified type theories. It is required in addition that the range of the bound variables in defining formulas do not include collections to be defined. It was defined out in section 2.1 that Russell's type theory cannot be sent as a reduction of mathematics to logic. But even aside from that, it was observed earlier on the special, it was earlier, or that especially in ramified type theories, it is too cumbersome to formalize ordinary mathematical arguments. And let's return to the other areas of analytical philosophy. Hermann Weyl took up the predicated cause. Weyl, 1918, like Panacur Weyl, did not share Russell's desire to reduce mathematics to logic. And right from the start, he saw that it would be in a practice impossible to work in a ramified type theory. Well developed a philosophical stance that it is in a sense intermediate between intuitionism and Platonism. He took the collection of natural numbers as as unproblematically given, but the concept of the obituary of set of the natural numbers was not taken to the immediately given in mathematical institution. Only those subsets which are determined by arithmetical, i.e. first order predicate, are taken to be predicatively acceptable. Or the one hand, on the one hand, it emerged that many of the standard definitions in mathematical analysis are impredicated. For instance, the minimal closure of the operations on a set is ordinarily defined as the intersection of all sets that are closed under applications of the operations, but the minimal closure impredicated in the way attention gradually shifted away from concerns, but that set theoretical paradoxes to the role of the impredicatively in mainstream mathematics. On the other hand, will show that it is often possible to bypass predicative notions. It even emerged that most of all mainstream 19th century mathematical analysts can be vindicated on the predicated basis. Furman, 1988. In the 1920s, in the 1920s, history intervened. Weyl was won over the Brouwer's more radical institutionalistic projects. In the meantime, mathematical became convinced that the higher predicative chance finite set theories developed by Cranton and Zermelo was less yeah, acutely threatened by Russell's paradox than previously suspected. These factors caused predicativism to last into a dominant state for several decades. Building on the work of generalized recursions theory, Solomon Rifferman extended the predicativism project in the 1920s. Rifferman in 2005, he analyzed that well safely could be iterated into transfinite. Also, those set of numbers that can be defined by using quantifications over the set that are well regarded as predicatively. Justified should be pointed as a acceptable, predicatively acceptable, and so on. This process can be propagated along an ordinary path. This ordinary path stretches as far as into transfinite as the predicative ordinary reach, where the ordinary is predicative if the measures of the length of the probable well ordinary of the natural numbers, the collaboration of the strength of the predicative mathematics, which is due to the referment and the independently shite is nowadays fairly generally mathematics, which is due to preferment and independent shite is nowadays fairly generally accepted. Preferment then investigated how much standard mathematical analysis can be carried out within the predicative framework. The search of the preferment and others, most notably Harvey Ferdman, shows that most of the 20th century analysis is acceptable from the predicative point of view. But it is also clear that all of the contemporary mathematicals that is generally accepted by mathematical communities is accepted from the predicative standpoint. Transfinites or theories is a case in point. Because it's Platonism. And this year before the Second World War, it became clear that weighty objections that had been raised against each of the three Platonist programs in the philosophy of mathematics, predicativism was perhaps an exemption, but it was at the time programmed without defenders. This room was created for the renewed interest in the prospect of Platonist views about the nature of the mathematics on the Platonist concepts at three matters of the mathematics consist of abstract entities. So I went ahead and read so that's it today, ladies and gentlemen. I went ahead and read the Platonism. Let me state that a little bit closer in the story. Go ahead and stop here. Uh, this story, this part of this description, I could be off on my understanding of this, but it talks about the S and the C, right? And I guess the S has the ability to make, the S and the C have the ability to often change and make the same sounds. I believe that's this what's talking about how it's predicates when it talks about the sounds shifting and changing. The C can take on the K sound, but also can take on the S sound, and the S can also take on the C sound while you put an H in front of it. So I'm just trying to understand how this works mathematically into the story, but I guess this is one of the various, because it mentioned letters, and getting a quite understanding of this is quite fascinating, but yet difficult at the same time. Um, Let me just go ahead and say, I thank you guys for being here, taking the time to listen to, again, my horrible reading. But as you see, I believe I'm improving, and I hope you guys notice the improvement as well. Um, and I think we should, uh, I'm sorry, y'all got distracted. But again, let me go back to what I was saying and everything. You know, um, what I was saying and everything. And again, thank you for the time you guys spent here and listening to me read. And I try not to be boring or whatever. I try to add some excitement to, but again, this is a very boring read. But I'm also trying to be informative to to everyone who is watching and viewing this. Um, so if enjoy what you're reading and stuff, and you like what you're hearing, or if you think it's informative in some way, um, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment in the section, because again, like I've always say, I do want to get better, and I'm working on things that are difficult for me as a person, but I do want to get better in what I'm doing and stuff. And I do want to have a better understanding of what I'm reading. So if you come across this information and you see this, and it's some improvement areas where you think can be improved, like please do, share that comment in the comment section, because I greatly want to have a better understanding to this. Um, I believe, that mathematics may be the way to rebuild our future, not just for my particular race, but for all of us. And I think that understanding of math is how that's done. And again, I appreciate your time. You guys have a great day. Peace and love.